Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. I am the chairperson, Scott Powell, and I would like to welcome you to the August 19th Audit Committee meeting. The Audit Committee was established with the responsibilities to review internal audit reports, review with management and external auditors results of the financial statement audit, report to the City Council about committee activities, issues, and related recommendations as needed, and to provide an open venue of communication between internal audit and external auditors and City Council. All committee members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a bit differently or the same as it was last time. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city's website and also linked on our committee page. We have also have an option for the public to view, we also have an option for the public to listen via by phone. And for those of you out there with us today, welcome. At this time, I will have roll call. I will now go through and introduce all committee members who are present, are participating virtually. We have Amy Kemp, our secretary. We have Susan Darnell. We have Andrew Emery and Gwen Whistler, and myself. I am Scott Powell. Please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking when you have a question or would like to speak unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone after you are done speaking. Committee members, as well, I've already called your name, please just say a quick hello. Amy.
Hi, Scott. I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amy. Susan.
Hello.
Andrew.
Hello.
And Gwen.
Good afternoon.
And hello. So I guess we will start with our committee agenda items. Correct, Patricia? So the first item is approval of the last meeting's minutes. I think those minutes were out on our website, as well as all members have had those minutes. So I would have a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All in favor? Signal by hand, or do we need to say each one has to communicate?
I believe you have to do a roll call, Scott.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gwen.
When we're virtual, not in-person meetings.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gwen. I will start with you, Gwen Whistler.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
And I as for myself. The second item on our agenda is financial department audit update, and Tony McDowell, our finance director, will give us a brief update as we are going into our 2021 audit. Tony?
Yeah, well, thanks, Chairman Powell. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, committee members. Tony McDowell, City Finance Department. And yeah, my agenda item is an update on the audit, but I'm actually going to start with an introduction, and I'm using air quotes here, an introduction to a new staff member. And the reason I'm using air quotes is because it's not really a new staff member. It's someone who was with us previously in a different role. She left us for about a year, but she's back with us now as of last Monday, and it's Becky King, and I'll let Becky introduce herself here in a moment. But Becky is our new Assistant Finance Director, and she will be the lead person on the audit from the Finance Department side. She's going to be supervising the Treasury and Financial Operations section of accounting, and also the financial reporting section of accounting as well. So I'm going to let Becky introduce herself to you all, and then she's going to give you all an update on where we are with the audit.
Thanks, Tony. Good afternoon. This is Becky King, Assistant Finance Director. So as Tony said, I actually worked for the city of Asheville for about 4 years prior. I started as an accountant and then held the role of controller. I did leave for a year. I actually went to work for Buncombe County as their accounting and reporting manager. And now I am back and I'm super happy to be back and working with the finance department. So an update on audit. Like Tony mentioned, I am on, I think, day 7. So I am trying to get caught up on everything audit related. But where we are right now, the big thing that we're trying to do right now is we are closing the year in our financial software. That will actually happen tomorrow evening after close. We've done some testing this week. Everything seems good, so we are on schedule to do that. Once that is completed, we'll really be able to do our reconciliations and work on the work papers for the auditors. We have a couple of outstanding items from preliminary field work that we will be getting to them the end of this week, beginning of next week. And then we do have a PPC list for final field work. So we are starting to just go down the list of things. The auditors will be on site the week of September 20th and 27th. We are aiming to get a trial balance to them the first part of September. That is my goal. I have spoken with the auditors about some of the findings and issues that we had last year. We've talked through some of our pain points that we had, and I will be keeping a very close eye on those to make sure that we don't have them again this year. We are still working with JPS. They're kind of doing some consulting for us just to kind of help us through some of those pain points. And we have hired a temp employee to help with workload on both the Treasury and Operations side and the financial reporting. As of right now, my goal is to get an audit out by October 31st. As most of you probably understand, there are a lot of hurdles to jump before then, but that is my goal, and we will stick to that as best as we can. And of course, if anything differs, we will always give you guys updates. So, and the auditors are on track. I had, like I said, I had a conversation with them, and they don't see any reason that we cannot meet our October 31st deadline either. So, any questions? Awesome.
Thanks, Becky.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Tony and Becky. And Becky, glad you're back on board again. Hopefully, that'll be a long relationship, and they'll get through this year's audit as well as future audits to come. But
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, the next agenda item is contract management audit findings, and I think Patricia, you got to update us on that.
Yes, thank you, Scott. So I had mentioned in our last audit committee meeting that we are working through the findings from the contracts management audit that was performed mostly in FY 19 and 20. So we've implemented changes for our contract closeout procedures. We're now working through change orders, which was a major finding in that audit. And we're outlining the different types of change orders when they apply, and trying to provide clear standards and procedures so that it becomes standardized across the city, which was, I think, one of the key elements of the finding in the audit. So I expect that as part of that process of outlining the procedures, we're really walking through the contracts process from start to finish. So starting with the contracts and procurement policy, which Frank is going to talk about here in a minute. and then getting us all the way through closeout. So we're trying to figure out where we are maybe lacking some standards. And we know that different departments have different forms and documents that they use for change order procedures. And so we're looking to standardize those. So comparing departments to departments, figuring out what our best practices are. And so we're working through that. We're likely looking at a several month-long project to get that outlined, and then we'll start pushing that out to the city. But that's where we are on that. Any questions? All right.
So Patricia, do you think after you go through that, you said, a couple months process and going through that you can just update us as to, where we stand in that, and what the best practices inside the city is in relation to addressing the change orders, and how y'all got to work collaboratively to address the issues that particular finding?
Absolutely. I'll keep updating the audit committee. I know our November meeting is usually reserved mostly for the financial audit presentation. If I have a quick update to share at that meeting, I will. But my goal is to have clear standards that I can present to audit committee for our February meeting.
Well, thank you, Patricia. Our next item on our agenda is the procurement, purchasing, and contracting policy. And I think Frank McGowan, hopefully I stated his name correctly.
You did.
From Finance and Strategic Services, who is the Finance and Strategic Services Manager. Frank?
Yes.
Enlighten us.
Good afternoon, and hopefully the power doesn't get knocked out because it is storming here. So I'll be brief. I supervise the purchasing manager and subsequently the purchasing division within finance. And the one piece you may not be aware of is within our community and economic development department, we have a Asheville Business Inclusion Office. The Asheville Business Inclusion Office developed a Asheville Business Inclusion Policy, which speaks to how we do outreach to minority and women-owned businesses. And that policy was presented and adopted by council in the previous fiscal year. I believe it was around October. And that policy, when it was adopted, went into effect in January 2021. We needed to make updates to the purchasing and contracting policy to support the ABI policy. So there were specific items in terms of outreach, number of required quotes or bids, that sort of thing, that needed to be reviewed and updated. The purchasing and contracting policy had last been updated in it had not been substantially updated since 2012. So we needed to make some updates to it as well. That was a collaborative process between myself, the folks in legal, as well as our purchasing team. That was presented to council and adopted and went into effect on January 1. The other things that were included in the policy was just making sure that we're consistent with state, federal, and other city policies. Obviously promoting competitive procurement across the board. And as I mentioned, supporting the implementation of the business inclusion policy. So we simply wanted to make you aware that this policy had been updated. And unless there are any questions, that's really all I have.
So Frank, what did the business inclusion that was approved by the board? How did that impact the policy? 50,000 foot level.
So some of the items that were updated previously, you were only required to get two bids or quotes on particular on particular procurements. ABI was looking for a minimum of 3, so we had to update our policy to look for a minimum of 3, or attempting to get a minimum of 3 bids or quotes. That was one of the changes. There are procedures in terms of what staff has to do and their responsibilities for doing outreach to minority and women-owned businesses. And additionally, and this was fairly substantial, what is required from prime vendors, especially on construction, prime vendors, as they work with their subcontractors for reporting, and also when we receive bids to make sure that the prime bidders are compliant with our ABI policies.
Does anyone else have any questions for Frank? Well, seeing none, the last item on our agenda, or not the last, but second to the last, is the Audit Committee Secretary election. Amy has been doing a wonderful job as our secretary since its inception. I think she has communicated that she would like to take a more active role in doing minutes, and especially doing minutes in today's environment is a little difficult. And we would like to have someone else to step up to the plate and take over that role as secretary. So at this time,
I'll volunteer if no one else would like to.
so Susan, you're stepping up to the plate?
Then I would nominate Susan Darnell to take that on, and thank Amy for her service, and thank Susan for volunteering.
And I would second that nomination of Susan for secretary, and also thank Amy for all the hard work she's done for the Audit Committee.
No, thanks for doing it, Susan. I just, my mind is so fractured a lot of times when I'm trying to take the minutes and listen, and I feel like, I'd like to take a break and just participate. So thank you very much.
Sure.
So I would take it now. We need to do a roll call vote as to the nomination second for Susan Darnell to be our secretary-elect. So Gwen Whistler.
Aye. Aye.
Amy Kemp.
Aye.
Andrew Emery.
Aye.
Susan Darnell.
Aye.
And of course, myself, aye. And now the last item is an informal discussion or future meeting agendas. At this time, Patricia, I know we have our meeting in November. Is there anything else the committee would like to see in future meetings as far as added to the agenda, or something that we could look at to probably aid you as internal auditor?
I mentioned our November meeting generally is held to be the presentation of the financial audit. If there's anything else that y'all would like to add and see on that agenda, I'm happy to.
Patricia, do we normally try to make that a joint meeting between the Audit Committee and the Finance Committee of the City Council?
We have in the past, with the only exception being last year, because of the virtual nature. And I think at the time, the council committees were being reshuffled and finance wasn't fully formed. But
okay,
we'll look to invite them again.
Great. I would just like to propose that so that the auditors don't have to go through the same thing twice, if we can. And the Finance Committee has locked and loaded on a time and date. So maybe for the November meeting, we can have a joint meeting.
Okay, yes, I'll coordinate with, I'll Is Beth Beagle still the admin for the Finance Committee?
Well, for a while. Sarah Gross should be able to help you out with that.
Okay. And we'll definitely coordinate that, and we'll make sure that that's joint again. Is there anything else for the November meeting?
Yeah, just if you have any updates on the purchasing, but I mean, that should be just pretty quickly. And Scott, can I ask another question? Do we not normally open it up for public comment? I can't remember.
That is a very good question.
I'm sure we have thousands of people listening in, but I think we should probably have that on the agenda. I'm sorry I missed it, that it wasn't on the agenda.
We have not been taking public comment at these meetings. We've been opening up, people can comment prior, and we didn't receive anything.
Sorry, I forgot that.
Well, thank you, Patricia, and all the staff over at the City of Asheville for all the hard work, and all the committee members for a wonderful meeting today. I guess at this point in time, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I second. And I guess we'll do a roll call. Susan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
And I too. Thank y'all for all coming and participating. Y'all have a wonderful day, and try to stay dry today. I know 2 days ago, probably a few of us was underwater. I know I had a good 3 inches rolling down the street and a half an inch in the basement. So good times. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.